Good morning. It's so wonderful to see this many people here on this beautiful day. Thank you very much for your presence. This is just a great gathering. My name is Tim Kraus, and I want to welcome you to the First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati on this very special occasion. Our church is, as are all the greater Cincinnati UU churches, located on the ancestral lands of the Adena and the Hopewell cultures, as well as the Miamia and the Shawnee peoples, who were forcefully, and I mean forcefully, removed from this landscape and erased from this Ohio Valley landscape. We, as a faith community, need to remind ourselves of that history and keep that intention, because we are faith communities who are committed to the idea of social justice, committed to the ideas of anti-racism, and we want to welcome all. And we need to hold that fact and that reality in tension with our beliefs. Today is a special day because our larger UU community is recognizing and honoring the work and the ministry of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. The UUSC is one of the many ways in which Unitarian Universalists put into practice the idea that we all are stronger when we work together for the common good of all the people of the world. And that's really one of the beauties of why we associate with each other, because we know we cannot do it by ourselves. We need the collective energy that people of a common faith can bring together. We're especially glad that Reverend Mary Catherine Mourn, Reverend Laura Randall, and Cassandra Ryan are with us today. Reverend Mourn, the president and CEO of the UUSC, if you want to stand, Mary Catherine. Reverend Mourn will be delivering our sermon today, Connections That Heal, Partnering for Justice. Thank you, Mary Catherine, from the bottom of our hearts, and Laura and Cassandra, for being with us and bringing the message of hope and justice that the UUSC promotes every day of its existence. Before we begin our service today, I have just a couple of housekeeping items that I need to mention for our guests and visitors. Our church is a place where you can bring your whole self, your full identity, your questioning mind, and your expansive heart. You will see signs scattered all over the building indicating various things that we hope will help you feel welcome and comfortable here. We have accommodations such as gender-neutral bathrooms that are on our second floor and wheelchair accessible. And we have hearing assistance devices that you can get in the back of the sanctuary. The ushers will help you get that. And we have a very important person's lounge, the VIP lounge up front, for younger people who want to be a part of our service and enjoy our community. Please ask someone if you need accommodations and you can't locate them, because there will be people here to help you. After our service today, Mary Catherine, Laura, and Cassandra will stick around for questions and answers about the UUSC programming or anything else that's mentioned in the sermon. We will have a reception of light refreshments in our Ellen Hall room, which is the fellowship hall that's right off of the entrance to the church here. And that's for all of us. And our flowers today are given by Allison Irwin in honor of the work of the UUSC. And they're really beautiful. Thank you, Allison. And one last announcement is that there is a table outside the sanctuary that's a sign-up sheet for the Pride Parade and the Pride Booth to be held this year on Saturday, June 24th. Now, we know this conflicts with General Assembly, and it typically does for those of us who end up going to General Assembly. But if you're going to be here in town, we urge you to talk to somebody that's got one of the rainbow ribbons about signing up, getting involved in the table, because we're having a difficult time staffing that table because of the General Assembly and how close it is to Cincinnati. So watch your church newsletters and Sunday morning orders of service for more information about this that will be coming from the Unitarian Universalist Council of Greater Cincinnati. So thank you. And with that, we're going to begin our service. and our in-gathering music, Ramona, Beck, and the band.
Yes, enjoy, yes. Well, you better listen, my sisters and brothers, 'cause if you do, you can hear there are voices still calling across the years. And they're crying across the ocean, and they're crying across the land, and they will till we all come to understand. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. When one of us are chained, none of us are free. Well, you better listen, my brothers and sisters, 'cause you can hear, there are voices still calling across the years. And they're crying across the ocean, and they're crying across the land, and they'll cry until we all come to understand. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. When one of us is chained, none of us are free. And there are people still in darkness, and they just can't see the light. If you don't say it is wrong, then they say it's right. We've gotta feel for each other, let our brothers know we care. Got to get that message out there loud and clear. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free until we're free. None of us are 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 free. When one of us is chained, none of us are free. And there are people still in darkness, and they just can't see the light. And if you don't say it's wrong, they'll say it's right. We've got to heal for one another, let our brothers know we care. Got to get the message out there loud and clear. 'Cause none of us are free. None of us are free, true. None of us are free. When one of us is chained, none of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us, 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 none of us are free. True, say that. None of us, none of us, none of us, none of us, none of us are, we are free. None of us, 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 we are free. It's true, none of us, not a one, not a one. If anyone is chained, not a one is free. And thank y'all.
Good morning, UUs of Cincinnati. I'm Bill Gupton, Senior Minister at Heritage Universalist Unitarian Church in Anderson Township. And I'm supposed to call us to worship, but we're already worshiping. We're dancing, we're clapping, we're singing. We're already here, we're worshiping. So just take a moment to feel that, to feel what it is like to be here in this space or on YouTube with all these Unitarian Universalists from all over Cincinnati. Folks are still coming in the sanctuary. I call us into worship this morning with prophetic words from Reverend Mark Bellatini, Minister Emeritus of the First UU Church of Columbus, right up the road, from his meditation manual Sonata for Voice and Silence. When the machetes of injustice tear apart the fabric of the nation and of the world, we speak up. When the sunset resembles purple and orange vines entwined like lovers, we sigh in silence. When the mud of deception and trickery smears the mirror of public life, we speak up. When the moon rests like a thin slice of lemon in the sparkling glass of morning, we smile in silence. When the insecure bully and the greedy clutch the common purse, we speak up. When a song lifts our souls aloft like a lark, we swoon in silence. When wars and rumors of wars destroy the hopes and lives of children, we speak up. When we are overcome at the wonder of the sheer reality that there is a communion of life connecting human beings on this one world earth, we give thanks in silence. When we are restrained and constrained and oppressed by systems of control, manipulation, and duplicity, we speak up. And when words cease and the breath moves deep and slow, when the inner and the outer are one for a time, we wonder in silence. Friends, we are gathered here today to speak up and to wonder in silence. Let us begin, or should I say, let us continue. Come, let us worship together. Now I know this group can sing. I know you can belt it out. So please rise as one in body or spirit as we sing our opening hymn, number 347, Gather the Spirit.
Good morning, everyone. It is so great to be here, and I love your VIP lounge. I love the energy joyful noises and dancing that's happening in this congregation. It's so wonderful. I have a story for you today called The Parrot and the Eagles. And this story is adapted from the Jataka Tales, which is a collection of Buddhist stories from India. This is a participatory story. I'm very excited. Once upon a time, a long time ago in an ancient forest, there lived a little green parrot. This parrot loved the forest. She loved the great big trees and the dappled sunshine. She loved her friends, the sloth and the anteater. She loved flying through the forest canopy, looking for yummy fruit in the branches. Sometimes, when she was feeling adventurous, she would even fly up and out of the forest. From up there, she could see the river, which ran through the valley like a silk ribbon, and the mountains which surrounded the forest, their tops disappearing into the clouds. Sturdy goats lived in the mountains, and giant eagles built their nests there. One day, the parrot woke up from a nap and found that her nest was surrounded in smoke. The forest was on fire. Quickly, the parrot flew up very high and, looking down, saw that the fire was spreading quickly. Soon it would consume the whole forest.
Oh dear, that is very sad.
The parrot looked over and saw that it was a giant eagle perched on a nearby mountain ledge who had spoken.
It's a shame, really. It was such a nice forest. Oh, but don't worry, little parrot. You can stay in the mountains. You'll be safe here.
But my friends, Sloth and Anteater and all the monkeys and deer, they can't escape. What will happen to them?
The eagle shrugged a bit with her large wings. The parrot soared above the forest, fretting as the fire spread, and then she got an idea. She dove down into the river and then flew back up very high, right over the fire. She shook her wings, and a few drops of water fell onto the flames with a hiss. Quickly, she dove back into the river and repeated the process again and again. Dive, splash, fly, hiss. All of this strange action caught the attention of some of the other eagles, who joined that first eagle on the mountain perch. After watching several rounds of the parrot diving and flying, putting out a little flame here and a little one there, one of the other eagles shouted,
"That'll never work. Can't you see it's useless? Your wings are too small. You should give up."
But without slowing down, the parrot shouted back,
I may be small, but we are not small together. Together we can stop the fire. Will you help me?
The eagle shuffled nervously. I mean, sure, it was a nice forest, but it wasn't like they lived there. And all this diving into rivers and flying out over flames looked kind of dangerous. The mountain ledge was safe. But then one of the eagles dove off the ledge and into the water below, just like when she caught a fish there. She rose out of the river with her wide wings shimmering with water and splashed it down on the flames below with a hiss.
Yeah, that's it.
The parrot shouted with joy and dove back into the river herself. One by one, the other eagles followed, diving into the river and carrying water to put out the flames. It took all day and into the night, but finally the last orange flame disappeared and the smoke vanished into the clouds over the mountains. The exhausted little green parrot slumped against her new eagle friend.
See, I knew we were not small together.
You were right. Together, we are bigger than we ever imagined.
Let's give our players a round of applause. We're now going to be singing the children to religious education classes.
morning. I apologize, I'm getting over a cold, so my normal voice that typically projects is not here today, but I'm here, so. We're going to be doing our responsive reading. The dark portion is the part that you're going to read, the dark in italics. The lighter portion is my part, okay? But we have only begun to love the earth. We have only begun to imagine the fullness of life. How can we desire fail? We have only begun to imagine justice and mercy. Surely our river cannot already be hastening into the sea of non-being. Not yet, not yet. There is too much broken that must be mended. We have only begun to know the power that is in us if we would join our solitudes in the communion of struggle. Thank you.
Let's let that beautiful sound wash over us. And thank you, combined choirs. What an example of what we can do here in Cincinnati as Unitarian Universalists if we combine our voices with those of others. I invite everyone here now in this sanctuary and online to join our hearts in prayer. Great Spirit of life, we give thanks for this day and for the blessing that it is to be together. Together here, together now. We give thanks on this day of connections, on this gorgeous spring day, for the gift of being alive, of having hearts that can open to one another, hearts that can be broken open in compassionate service of others and of our world. Hearts that can feel and experience this interconnected web of existence in which we live and breathe and have our being. Spirit of life, we gather today knowing there is so much that is broken in our world, so much that must be mended. And we seek the strength, the courage to be among those who are the healers. Give us that strength. Give us that courage. Let us be inspired this morning, inspired by story and song, by powerful words and by profound silence. Let us be moved by the amazing grace that we find and feel in the connections made here today. Connections with our fellow Unitarian Universalists, connections with our wider community, with movements for justice, with every creature, every plant, every river and stream on this living, breathing planet. Help us, O Spirit of life, to speak up and to speak out with passion whenever our voices are needed, to cause good trouble when that is what is called for, or to hold silence if that is appropriate, and to do all of it, leading not with our heads but with our hearts, hearts broken open and filled with love and compassion. Our companions need us. Our children need us. Our world needs us. May we give ourselves to them in faith, with hope, and most assuredly, grounded in and out of a center of the love that is the spirit of our churches. Amen. I've spoken this morning of silence. Let us be here now together for a moment in silent, personal prayer and reflection. May we honor the Spirit of life in each and in all. Amen. And now let us continue our meditation by singing together hymn number 159, This Is My Song.
UUSC is an international human rights organization. We're grounded in the principles of Unitarian Universalism and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. At UUSC, we seek to advance human rights, dismantle systems of oppression, and uphold the inherent dignity and worth of every human being.
Founded in 1940, UUSC addresses the needs of people who've been ignored or overlooked, working in places where the larger aid agencies often do not.
We are committed to building upon a legacy that is rooted in locally led initiatives, working hand in hand, eye to eye, and heart to heart with community leaders and grassroots organizations in the United States and around the world.
Today, UUSC has over 30,000 members, partnering with more than 40 grassroots organizations. Our programs span across 20 countries in Asia, the South Pacific, Central America, and the United States.
We do our work in 3 ways: through advocacy and action with UU congregations, UUSC members, and our incredible volunteers, through education and experiences with the UU College of Social Justice, and through grant-making, convenings, and collaborative research.
With our partners, we address human rights issues including disaster justice, emergency relief in the face of natural or human-made crises, climate action, working with communities who are losing their homes due to climate change, and criminalization, partnering with communities who are targeted simply for their activism or being who they are, immigrants, LGBTQ people, and ethnic and religious minorities.
And this past year, we have been working with our grassroots partners to meet the unique human rights challenges presented by the COVID-19 crisis.
We know that UUSC members expect us to always be learning and be bold in our programming and our commitment to human rights.
We want you to have confidence in our work. UUSC is a terrific investment for your philanthropic support. Our budget goes far to accomplish so much for human rights in the U.S. and around the world.
And for 10 years running, UUSC has earned 4 stars, the highest possible rating from Charity Navigator, because of our effectiveness and fiscal transparency.
It is an exciting time at UUSC. We are grateful to you and to all of our members for your partnership and for putting your faith in us. You make our work possible. Thank you.
Thank you, UUSC supporters.
Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you so much for your support.
And thank you for putting your faith in us.
For all that you do to advance human rights.
We really appreciate it.
We couldn't do the work we do around the world without you.
Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad for that little opportunity to
UUSC is
to introduce you, only one time, to some of my colleagues at UUSC. A reading from poet Rosemary Watola Tromer from Colorado, entitled "For When People Ask." You know, those times when people are passing kind of quickly and they just quickly ask, "And how are you?" For when people ask. I want a word that means okay and not okay. More than that, a word that means devastated and stunned by joy. I want a word that says, I feel it all at once. The heart is not like a songbird singing only one note at a time, more like a Tuvan throat singer, able to sing both a drone and simultaneously 2 or 3 harmonics high above it, a sound, the Tuvans say, that gives the impression of wind swirling around rocks. The heart understands swirl, how the churning of opposite feelings weaves through us like an insistent breeze, leads us wordlessly deeper into ourselves, blesses us with paradox, so we might walk more openly into this world so rife with devastation, so ripe with joy. Good morning, Cincinnati. Should I say Greater Cincinnati? Good morning, Greater Cincinnati. In the room, online, it is so good to be with you. What a hidden gem of Unitarian Universalism is here in Cincinnati. I am sorry to say that the three of us who are joining you from UUSC have never been to Cincinnati before, and we have loved every moment here. Driving through the beautiful area, seeing your congregation's rummage sale at Heritage, and then potluck last night at St. John's, and this beautiful Sunday morning together. What a joy to be with you. I want to recognize those of you from First Unitarian, from St. John's, from Heritage, also Hopedale, and Harmony, The Gathering, I see you, and Blue Haven. I have loved learning about the Greater Cincinnati UU Council, the UU Council of Greater Cincinnati, and the work you're doing in this service and how it embodies the mission of the council and the understanding that we are better together, that we can do more when we come together. And I am most grateful for the invitation to be part of this acknowledgement, this affirmation, this recommitment, this coming together to make the world what we know it needs to be together. And I want to thank Dan Schneider in particular, who's president of the council, and I know that it was Dan's idea to invite us. I especially was moved to learn that some of you are doing anti-racism work as well through the council, especially for those of us who are white. The practice, both the personal practice and the practice in community, of examining our own privilege and working to dismantle the systems that oppress is the heart of our commitment to justice and human rights. The poet says, "There is too much broken that must be mended, too much hurt we have done to each other that cannot yet be forgiven. We have only begun to know the power that is in us if we would join our solitudes in a communion of struggle. So much is unfolding that must complete its gesture. Thank you for all that you are doing toward the unfolding of the values we profess. Thank you for not turning away from what is yet possible as we together build the world we dream of. I am grateful for this opportunity to share UUSC's vision and commitment to that unfolding through the work we do with you for human rights around the world. In early September, UUSC's Director of Programs, Rachel Gore-Fried, traveled to Poland and Hungary to visit with UUSC partners who are responding to the needs of communities caught in the intersectional oppressions compounded by Russia's invasion and devastating attacks on Ukraine. When UUSC responds in a time of crisis, we support grassroots organizations that are serving communities too often tossed aside by government and international aid responses. In this case, in and around Ukraine, Our partners are serving women in and from rural areas in Ukraine, also LGBTQI people who face threats not only in the war, but also from so-called humanitarian organizations, serving people with disabilities and non-ethnic Ukrainian people, often brown and black, and Roma, who are not eligible for much of the support that is being distributed. This is what we mean at UUSC when we say intersectional oppressions, compounding conditions which create layer upon layer of disadvantage and danger and harm. Our partners in Poland and Hungary asked for support to make possible a brief time of rest and connection for feminist leaders who are facing unthinkable violence and trauma. For a week in the late summer, these leaders traveled to a beautiful spot to rest, to connect, and to ground themselves for what is ahead. When she returned home, Rachel shared how deeply she was moved by the power of the time they shared together. It gave them a moment in that, okay and not okay truth to hold both the devastation and the joy. I begin with this small picture of UUSC's work in the world in hopes that we might hold together in our community care both the unthinkable losses, though we think about them all the time, that are happening every day, and the remarkable healing and hope, the beauty that is born in courageous connection and commitment to justice. I also share this story because it's not unlike what we strive to do together each week when we gather for worship, whether it is in a room filled with energy and life and music, or at home joining on the screen, or in our small congregations week after week. This is what we strive to do together each week when we gather for worship. Within the container of faith community, we gather to rest from the relentless, pounding, sometimes real, sometimes manufactured demands of our days. We stop just for this hour. We are saying that taking time for connection and meaning making and promise making, that all of that matters. We are here together, okay and not okay. We hold one another in the midst of unthinkable losses, and we remember together the joy and beauty that is always present, even if sometimes only on the corner of our ability to see. In this way, we find strength and courage and hope and faith. In this way, we hold ourselves accountable and call ourselves back again to our shared work for justice, to the great work of love. Sometimes when I describe UUSC's mission, I catch on the words a little bit. It's a bold commitment. We work together with partners in the United States and around the world to dismantle systems that oppress and advance human rights for all. I give thanks for the visionaries within UUSC and around the world who will settle for nothing less in our mission. This is the sacred calling we are gathered to nurture today, and I am grateful to have the opportunity to weave UUSC's story with the story of Unitarian Universalism in Greater Cincinnati, and to offer thanks on behalf of our staff and our partners. Maybe we already said thanks enough, but anyway, to offer thanks for the financial support from those of you who are UUSC members, from those of you who are just learning about us. I wonder if those of you who are members, if you're comfortable, if you would raise your hand. You might have answers to questions others have. Would you raise your hand if you're a UUSC member? Thank you. And for those of you who are interested in learning more, I hope you might find Laura, Cassandra, or myself at the table, or one of these people who raised their hands. Today, we are hoping that many of you will join us in this work. At UUSC, as you heard, we engage in this work through what we call eye-to-eye partnership. In this expression of our theory of change, we demonstrate our belief that it is in relationships of radical trust and loving connection that change is made possible. This theory of change says a great deal about our understanding of what it means to be human. Many threads of progressive religious thought describe the importance of authentic, loving relationships. Jewish scholar Martin Buber, for one, succinctly and vividly offers a model of loving connection through his notion of I and thou relationship. He distinguishes this kind of connection from the objectifying and extractive kind of relationship, what he calls I and it. When I meet you as thou, I welcome you as a subjective other, worthy and whole in your own right. When I meet you this way, I see the holy in you. When I meet you as it, I am preoccupied by what you are to me, what I might get in this relationship, and thereby unable to really see you at all, not to mention to find a loving, healing connection. Relationship within I and it is transactional, extractive, instrumental, like meeting each other as objects, something to be used. I find this distinction so helpful. We meet people, yes, it's not just me, right? We meet people this way all the time, all too often. But we also know and have had experiences of what it is like to be met in our wholeness, in our holiness. That immediate recognition that we are inexorably connected and that another's flourishing is our own flourishing. While we have all experienced individual failure at this, which requires spiritual work, it is the systemic failures of loving connection that I want to speak about this morning. And here it's important to remember that the biggest challenge we face is not one person, not one leader, it's not one party or even one army that fails to recognize the human rights of some people. The biggest challenge we face is that the systems by which we organize our shared life have been designed in no small part to keep us disconnected, to ensure that we forget our kinship, to forget that we all have worth, that we all belong, and that we only thrive when we thrive together. As political theorist Brian Stout writes in his blog, Building Belonging, all domination systems, white supremacy, patriarchy, colonialism, extractive capitalism, all domination systems depend on three things to maintain their power. First, disconnecting ourselves from ourselves and our bodies. Second, disconnecting us from the land and other living beings. And third, disconnecting us from each other and from community. And you know what happens when we're disconnected? When we are disconnected and disengaged, we resign ourselves to powerlessness, which makes sense, because when we're disconnected, we are powerless. when we forget our connections and fall into cynicism and despair, we are playing right into empire's plans. Our perception of powerlessness is exactly what the empire is depending upon in order to survive. UUSC partners consistently and stubbornly claim their power and reject the notion that there is little we can do. One of my favorite examples of this comes from a group in the Pacific, partners called the Pacific Climate Warriors. They take this name very intentionally, in part to express what is one of their favorite sayings, and that is, yes, we are living on islands that are being encroached upon by water. We are losing our homes, but they say, we are not drowning, we are fighting. We will not despair. We will not give up. 4 years ago, an affiliated group, Pacific Island Students Fighting Climate Change, launched a new campaign born in a law school classroom in Fiji, calling on the UN International Court of Justice. Just picture it. A classroom of young adults in Fiji talking about what they can do, and they think, well, let's just go to the UN International Court of Justice. Calling on the UN International Court of Justice to issue what is called an advisory opinion, ruling that the climate crisis is a human rights issue. They like to say, bringing the world's biggest problem to the world's highest court. This would be a clear statement. They are asking the court to issue a clear statement on the obligation of states under international law to protect present and future generations against the adverse effects of climate change. By emphasizing the importance of human rights, the Pacific Island students are saying, we can no longer meet each other in these transactional relationships, I and it. They know better than most the impact of systems that arise out of purely transactional relationship. Our values, they are saying, demand that we meet each other as thou, recognizing the wholeness and worth of all, and challenging the transactional extractive systems that are allowing us to destroy our home. Around the world, and with your support, UUSC works with partners to challenge the systems that force us into extractive relationships with each other and with our planet. In rejecting the notion that there is no other way and little we can do, feminist activists in Poland, the Pacific students, grassroots groups in Burma, land and water defenders in Honduras, and many others are building healing connection and regenerative economies so that all may flourish and thrive. This is a notion that is also woven into the writings of Robin Wall Kimmerer, who is a member of the citizen Potawatomi Nation. Kimmerer uses her traditional wisdom and her academic training as a botanist to show us the way nature models I and thou. I especially love an essay she's written on what she calls the gift economy. All around us in the natural world, we see regenerative power, a gift economy. Scarcity, she says, is a tool of domination systems, not a necessity. And when we live in competition and scarcity, we forget that all of this is gift. Nothing we have done entitles us to this life or to each other. It's a gift. And when we hoard, when we objectify, make an it of the other, the giver or the gift, whether it's a person or a planet, when we treat people as things, when we commodify what cannot be owned, when we make of the gift a private asset, we squash the regenerative nature of life itself and make violence inevitable and risk losing it all, which is the inevitable consequence of objectifying each other and life. So many of the systems that order our lives politically, economically, and socially are powered by racism, patriarchy, and extractive capitalism, tools of alienation and oppression. We can resist these systems. Our resistance can take the form of organizing, supporting human rights work by joining UUSC, learning about racist systems and facing our own biases, working for peace, even providing a safe place for someone to sleep. We can resist. In the fall, when we had the opportunity and privilege of visiting with two of our partners from the Pacific Island students, Solomon and Vishal, they shared that they like to call themselves stubborn optimists. Yes, change is hard. It is hard to know how we will get there from here. Yes, it will take a long time to dismantle systems and to rebuild. And yet together, as we see each other whole and worthy, we know that nothing but the flourishing and thriving of all is enough. After 4 years of organizing and growing their base of support, in the fall, they had a few nations who had signed on to the resolution. The Pacific nation of Vanuatu had sponsored the resolution the students had created. By this winter, the list of co-sponsors was growing, and as they approached the date of March 29th, they had support from all but one of the nations in the European Union. They were hoping, frankly, that the United States just remained quiet. And on March 29th, Solomon and Vishal and many others, and UUSC's Director of Advocacy, Salote Soko, gathered in the Great Hall at the United Nations and watched as Vanuatu brought the resolution forward for consideration. And the United Nations General Assembly affirmed by consensus their vision. We have lots of work still to do. In the next year, year and a half, we will be learning what the International Court of Justice will do with this call, and we will be joining them in calling the countries of the world to accountability and joining our partners, the Pacific Island students fighting climate change, in truly building together a better world. My friends, thank you for coming together this morning, for your faith in our capacity and power to build a better world. And thank you for being partners with UUSC in the work that we are doing. Every day, we wake to some new glimpse of our world rife with devastation. May we hold each other tenderly in this truth and commit again to our part in mutual healing connections for our world. And may we also, each day, attend to the precious that is all around us, to the beauty and the joy present here, now and always.
The tenors sit in the back, so it took me a little bit of time to get here. Sorry. After we've heard those inspiring words from Reverend Mary Catherine, thank you very much. I think it's time for us to think about how we are going to do something about this. The words are wonderful. What are we going to do? Can we give? Can we support? Can we get involved with UUSC? There are many ways we can do that. One of them is through your dollars. And I hope you will consider that today. When I'm finished, the ushers will come around and bring the plate around, basket, and I hope you will consider giving. You might have gotten an envelope like this. You can put your check in there, make it out to UUSC. Very simple, 4 letters, UUSC. Or your cash. Cash is good here. The other thing that would be great is not just the check or the cash, but your involvement. The folks from UUSC, if you're not already receiving their emails, I received one yesterday that was fascinating. If you're not receiving them, they want your name and email address, assuming you have an email, if not your postal address. You can fill that in on here, or you can go out here in the hallway. There will be a clipboard. You can put your name and email address. They want to know who you are. They want to connect with you. That's what Reverend Mary Catherine talked about, our connections. And I also was asked to remind you of a couple other things. First of all, I want you to know that almost all of the money that funds the work of UUSC comes from people just like us. Regular, ordinary Unitarian Universalists who come to church, or your congregation, whatever you want to call it. And so that is what we're looking for today, that we want to show a big support from Cincinnati, from greater Cincinnati. So please, cash or check can go in here. I return mine in. And a couple things. If you can afford to think about doing $150, that will be matched. So that's actually $300 you're giving. Just think about that. The other thing is that there are a variety of ways to give. There should be on your screen right now how to give. You see a QR code there that you can take a picture of with your cell phone if you want, and it will take you to that page that is talked about there on the UUSC website, the donate page. And there are many ways you can give, many of which I don't understand personally, but I can put you in touch with people who can explain them. So just see me or one of the UUSC folks after the service. We'll be glad to help you. And there are even varieties of other ways you can give. Those of us like me who are in their 70s can sometimes have IRAs or other tax sheltered accounts, and we can pull money. We have to pull money out of those every year, and we can give it away and get the tax benefits of doing that. So that's called required minimum distribution. There are lots of ways to give. If you can't give money, be a supporter. And I will also encourage the ushers, not just out here, but give the plate to the choir too. Okay, thank you.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let me tell you that this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, oh, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let me tell you that. Okay, everyone, I want everyone to join. You're already singing along, so just sing a little louder, okay? Here we go. We're gonna sing it twice through. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, everywhere I go, everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. And we're going back to the amens. Amen. 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 One more time. Amen. 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 Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
We invite you to stand in body or spirit so that we may raise our voices once more for our closing hymn, The Fire of Commitment.
Please join me in the reading of the words back here. Thank you. We exchange this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
We are only beginning to know the power that is in us if we would join our solitudes in a communion of struggle. So much is in bud. This is our world, rife with devastation, ripe with joy. It is a gift. You are a gift. Go in peace, my friends.